The desert stretches endlessly under a merciless sun. Heat waves distort the horizon where nothing should exist. But something does. A massive complex hidden beneath sand and secrecy. This is Area 51. Or at least, that's what they want you to believe. For decades, the government denied its existence. Then they admitted it was real, but claimed it was just an aircraft testing facility. Nothing more, nothing less. Move along, citizen. But what if I told you that deep beneath the hangars and runways, something was discovered that changed everything we thought we knew about Area 51? Something that wasn't on any official record. Something that couldn't be. It started with a construction project in 2019. Workers were drilling a new underground facility, extending the already labyrinthine network of tunnels beneath the base. Standard procedure. Classified, but standard. Then, at 300 feet below ground, the drill hit something it shouldn't have. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. The metal was unlike anything in our periodic table. It didn't corrode. It didn't heat up under the drill's friction. It didn't even scratch. Tests revealed atomic structures that shouldn't exist in nature. Crystalline formations that violated every principle of metallurgy. The construction crew was immediately evacuated. Within hours, a team arrived. Not military, not CIA, something else entirely. They wore no insignia. They carried no identification. They asked no questions. They simply began excavating. What they found beneath that metal panel defied explanation. A chamber, perfectly spherical, approximately 40 meters in diameter. The walls emitted a faint luminescence that couldn't be measured by any known spectrum of light. It existed between frequencies, as if it occupied a space our instruments weren't designed to detect. Electromagnetic sensors went haywire. Geiger counters clicked wildly, then fell silent. Temperature readings fluctuated between absolute zero and temperatures that should have vaporized everything in the room. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The chamber wasn't empty. Along the curved walls were symbols, not hieroglyphics, not any known language, not even close to human writing. These symbols moved, subtly, almost imperceptibly, as if they were alive, or as if they were instructions being continuously updated. One researcher described it as watching computer code write itself, except the computer was the wall, and the code was older than human civilization. Another said the symbols seemed to respond to observation, changing pattern when someone looked directly at them, returning to their original configuration when attention shifted away. In the center of the chamber sat an object. Calling it a device would be too simple. Calling it a machine would be insufficient. It was roughly the size of a small car, composed of interlocking geometric shapes that seemed to shift when observed directly. Platinum, iridium, osmium, elements we recognized, but arranged in configurations that violated the laws of physics as we understand them. The joints between shapes had no seams, no welds, no connection points. It was as if the entire object had been grown rather than built, crystallized into existence from some unknown process. The research team tried to document it. Cameras malfunctioned within minutes, lenses cracked, recording devices captured only static and what sounded like voices speaking in reverse. Handwritten notes became illegible hours after being written, the ink rearranging itself into those same moving symbols found on the walls. Digital files corrupted instantly, sketches transformed overnight into geometric patterns that hurt to look at. It was as if the chamber itself refused to be recorded, as if it was protecting its secrets through means that transcended simple technology. Scientists brought in electromagnetic shielding, Faraday cages, lead-lined equipment,
nothing worked. One physicist theorized the chamber existed partially outside normal space-time, that documenting it was like trying to photograph a dream. The images never quite captured what was actually there.
If you're fascinated by what lies hidden beneath the world's most secretive locations, subscribe now, because what I'm about to tell you next will make you question everything you thought you knew about human history and our place in the universe. 3 researchers were selected to enter the chamber for extended observation. Dr. Sarah Chen, a physicist specializing in quantum mechanics and theoretical dimensions. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, a military engineer with top-level clearance and experience in deep underground facilities, and someone known only as Specialist K, whose background remains classified even in the leaked documents I've obtained. No service record, no personnel file, just a designation and a reputation for handling impossible situations. They spent 6 hours inside. When they emerged, something fundamental had changed. Dr. Chen's hair had turned completely white, not gray, pure white, as if every pigment molecule had been stripped away. Lieutenant Webb couldn't speak for 3 days, and when he finally did, he could only whisper numbers, complex mathematical equations that, when analyzed by other physicists, appeared to describe the geometric structure of space-time itself, including dimensions beyond our observable 4, equations that predicted phenomena we hadn't yet discovered. Specialist K was never seen again. Officially, he was transferred to another black site project. Unofficially, there is no record of anyone with that designation ever existing. His entire personnel file vanished from every database as if he'd been erased from reality itself. But they brought something out with them, not physical, not tangible, something else. Knowledge. Terrible, beautiful, impossible knowledge that seemed to have been imprinted directly into their consciousness. In the weeks following their emergence, Dr. Chen wrote a 400-page document describing what she'd experienced inside the chamber. The document was immediately classified at a level above top secret, a level that, according to most government officials, doesn't officially exist, a level with no name, only a number. Classification level Black 7. I've seen fragments of that document, excerpts that were leaked by someone brave enough or foolish enough to risk everything. And what Dr. Chen described was this. The object in the center wasn't a device built by anyone. It was a recorder, a witness, an archive. It had been there beneath the Nevada desert for at minimum 12,000 years, possibly much longer. Dating techniques couldn't establish an upper limit. It might have been there before the pyramids, before Göbekli Tepe, before the last ice age, and it had been recording everything that happened above it. Every aircraft that flew overhead, every nuclear test conducted in the desert, every conversation held in the command centers above, every missile launch, every secret meeting. But it didn't just record recent history. When they interfaced with it, when Dr. Chen placed her hand on its surface, she experienced something she called temporal echo, or chronological resonance. She saw the desert when it was an ocean, teeming with creatures that existed millions of years ago. She saw the ocean drain away, mountains rise and erode. She saw creatures that walked upright but weren't human, with elongated skulls and eyes that reflected light like animals. She saw lights in the sky that descended and rose with purpose and intelligence, following patterns that suggested complex mathematical understanding of gravity and propulsion. But most disturbing of all, she saw other humans, ancient humans, standing in that same chamber, touching that same object, receiving the same information, as if this had happened before, many times before, as if humanity had discovered this chamber, learned from it, then forgotten, a cycle repeating across millennia.
The government has never publicly acknowledged this discovery. In fact, shortly after the chamber was found, the construction project was officially abandoned due to unforeseen geological complications. The area was filled with concrete, layers and layers of it, enough to entomb the chamber forever, or so they hoped. Seismic data shows concrete pours that continued for 6 weeks, creating a barrier nearly 50 feet thick in all directions around the chamber. But here's the thing about the chamber. It started affecting people, not just the 3 researchers who entered it. Everyone who worked on level 7 began experiencing what they called intrusions in internal reports, waking dreams, visions, knowledge appearing in their minds that they couldn't have possibly known, equations for technologies that didn't exist, coordinates to locations in deep ocean trenches, star charts for constellations visible only from the southern hemisphere appearing in the minds of people who'd never left Nevada, warnings in languages no one spoke but everyone somehow understood. One security officer, a man named Derek Martinez with 15 years of exemplary service, reported seeing the same symbol from the chamber walls appearing everywhere. In his coffee, in the pattern of stars at night, in the condensation on windows, in the reflection of his own eyes. He couldn't escape it. His wife reported he'd started drawing it obsessively, covering notebook after notebook with variations of the symbol. 2 months later, he walked into the desert at 3 in the morning and was never found. Search teams combed the area for weeks, helicopters, ground crews, thermal imaging. Nothing, as if the desert itself had claimed him, as if he'd simply ceased to exist. The official explanation was heat stroke and dehydration, despite the fact that he walked out in the middle of the night when temperatures were mild, despite the fact that his vehicle was found with a full tank of gas and cases of water in the back seat, untouched. His last radio transmission was a single phrase, repeated 17 times before the signal cut out. "They're not gone. They're waiting. They're not gone. They're waiting." Military psychologists were brought in from Fort Bragg and other bases. The term mass hysteria appeared in internal memos and psychological evaluations. Counseling was mandated for everyone who had been within 100 yards of the chamber. Medication was prescribed. Transfers were offered to anyone who wanted to leave. But the visions didn't stop. If anything, they intensified, because the chamber, despite being entombed in tons of concrete, was still active. Seismic sensors detected a pulse emanating from it, regular, constant, rhythmic, like a heartbeat, 0.73 seconds between each pulse, exactly. No variation, no deviation. A rhythm so precise it seemed artificial, yet so organic it seemed alive. Then came the message that changed everything. 6 months after the chamber was sealed, every computer system on the base simultaneously displayed the same thing. Not a hack, not a virus. The systems weren't connected to any network. They were air-gapped, isolated, secure by design. No wireless capabilities, no external connections. Yet every screen, from the mainframes in the command center to the laptop of a junior analyst working in a Faraday-shielded room, showed the same sequence of those moving symbols from the chamber walls, and beneath the symbols, translated into English by an unknown source through an unknown mechanism, were 2 words: almost time. The base went into immediate lockdown, all personnel confined to quarters, communications severed, investigations were launched by every 3-letter agency. NSA specialists searched for intrusion vectors, CIA officers interrogated personnel, military intelligence tore apart every system looking for the source. No origin point for the transmission could be found. It hadn't come from outside, it hadn't come from any device on base, it hadn't been transmitted at all in any conventional sense. It simply appeared, as if the message had always been there, waiting to be revealed at precisely that moment. What was almost time? Time for what? The leaked documents don't say, or perhaps they do, and those sections remained so highly classified that even the leakers couldn't access them. But consider this. Shortly after that message appeared, construction began on a new facility, not at Area 51, somewhere else, somewhere even more remote. Satellite imagery analysts have speculated it might be in the Canadian Arctic or the Australian outback, and all the personnel who had been exposed to the chamber were transferred there. Every single one. No exceptions, no retirement options. Transfer or disappear. Are you starting to see the bigger picture? Hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to know the truth, because there's more, so much more that the government doesn't want you to know. The object in the chamber, the recorder, wasn't just documenting, it was communicating. With what? We don't know. With whom? We can only speculate. Dr. Chen's leaked notes describe it as both a beacon and a warning system. But for whom? For what? The implications are staggering. If something placed that object there 12,000 years ago, and it's been recording humanity's progress since then, documenting our evolution from primitive tribes to a nuclear civilization, what happens when the recording is complete? What happens when whoever or whatever placed it there comes to collect the data? There's a reason Area 51 has become more restricted in recent years. New fences extending miles beyond the original perimeter, new patrols with authorization to use lethal force, surface-to-air missiles, batteries that weren't there before, advanced radar systems, drone surveillance operating 24 hours a day. They're not just keeping people out, they're keeping something in, or preparing for something to arrive beyond our world.
Some researchers who've studied the leaked documents believe the chamber was a test, that humanity was being evaluated on our technological progress, our social development, our capacity for violence or peace, and that message, almost time, was a notification, pass or fail, ready or not, worthy or unworthy. Something is coming to judge us based on 12,000 years of recorded evidence. Others believe the chamber itself is alive, not in the biological sense, but conscious nonetheless, a form of intelligence so advanced that it appears as architecture to us, as archaeology, as mystery, that it's been waiting beneath the desert, patient beyond human comprehension, for the right moment to reveal its true purpose, that every pulse is a thought, every symbol a word, every vision shared with humans an attempt at communication. The most disturbing theory comes from an anonymous source who claims to be one of the original excavation team, someone who was there when the drill first pierced that impossible metal. According to this person, the chamber isn't unique. There are others, beneath other military installations, beneath major cities like Moscow, Beijing, and Washington, D.C., beneath sites we consider sacred or significant, like Jerusalem, Mecca, and the Ganges River, all connected through quantum entanglement or dimensional overlap, all pulsing with that same heartbeat rhythm, all displaying that same countdown, almost time. If this theory is correct, then the implications are almost too vast to comprehend. We haven't just been watched by one recorder, we've been surrounded by them, monitored from multiple locations, triangulated. Every major development in human civilization occurring near one of these chambers, every religion founded near a pulse point, every empire rising and falling within range of these ancient witnesses. What was found inside Area 51 wasn't just one mystery, it was the key to understanding that we've never been alone, that we've been watched, studied, recorded by an intelligence that makes our most advanced technology look primitive, that beneath our feet, beneath our certainty, beneath our reality, something ancient waits, and whatever it's waiting for is approaching faster than we can prepare for.
The government will never confirm this. They'll deny it until the moment denial becomes impossible. They'll discredit whistleblowers, classify documents, silence witnesses through transfers to black sites or through methods we don't want to imagine. But the truth has a way of surfacing, and when it does, when that time finally arrives and almost time becomes now, we'll understand why it was never on any official record, because some truths are too devastating for official recognition. Some discoveries change everything so fundamentally that acknowledging them would cause panic, chaos, the collapse of social order. The chamber beneath Area 51 is still there, still pulsing, still counting down to something we can't prevent and barely comprehend. The concrete hasn't stopped it. Nothing has stopped it. And somewhere in a facility more secret than Area 51 ever was, people who've touched that impossible metal and seen those living symbols are trying to prepare for what comes next, trying to understand equations that describe reality beyond our dimension, trying to decode warnings in a language older than human speech, trying to survive whatever judgment or revelation or transformation is approaching. What was found inside Area 51 wasn't on any official record for a reason, because the moment it enters the record, the moment it becomes acknowledged truth, is the moment everything changes. And perhaps they're right to keep it secret. Perhaps we're not ready. Perhaps we'll never be ready. But ready or not, that pulse continues, that countdown proceeds, and almost time grows closer with every heartbeat of that ancient, impossible chamber buried beneath the Nevada desert, waiting for a moment that's been coming for 12,000 years.